Welcome to this week's episode of A Tale of Two Scribes. I'm the host, Eric Bishop. This is a place where interesting people come to share their stories. I hope you'll support tonight's guest. As for myself, I'm a father, author, travel enthusiast, and lover of the outdoors. If you'd like to see some of my creative works, my novels, please go to my website, ericpbishop.com. Thanks for joining us tonight, and enjoy the journey. Welcome to another episode of A Tale of Two Scribes. Tonight, I got someone I've been getting on for a while now. I have Mr. Eric Bass of Shinedown, of the writing world, solo album, artist,
Hey,
the full picture. So,
I love that introduction. Thank you.
hey, hey, man. So, off the cuff thing that I didn't tell you
hmm
what I was going to say was I wanted to mention this to you a while ago because I noticed something after I'd first met you. I was like, who is this guy? So I think I looked up and I was like, I saw something and I'm like, I got to bring this up to him. And then I never thought about it. And then every time I do these things, even if I know someone, even if I'm friends with them, I'll still have a little bio printed off
Sure.
just because I'm going to be 50 this year and
Yep.
this thing's falling apart. I already told you this morning we were talking about my ear not working well.
Yeah, yeah.
I always have a cheat sheet in case I like draw a blank of like, what the hell was their album name? And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yep.
William Frederick Bass Jr.
hmm
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So we have a connection. Besides you going by Eric, and I go by Eric, which is my
Yep.
legal name. Um, so I've never met my biological dad. My mom got married when I was 10, only dad I ever knew. Had a great life, no
Great.
complaints. But my biological dad is actually named Frederick.
Really?
That's
There we
about
go.
the only thing I know. Last name is a German name, Zeibel, Frederick Zeibel. So I get German
Okay.
from multiple directions in my bloodstream. But yeah, so I was like,
Yeah. So my my
tell me
my
that at some point.
my parents, my dad, it was my dad's name. So it was Frederick without a K at the end.
Yeah.
It's Frederic. Yeah. And so they took Eric out of the end of Frederick.
And so was that something they just always called you Eric, or did you want to be called?
Yeah. They always called me Eric.
Oh, okay.
I was Eric. Yeah, my dad was Bill,
Okay.
and I they they thought about at one point. My both of my grandfathers have really great names. So one grandfather was Arthur, and the other one was Clayton. Great names. And
Yeah, absolutely.
they thought about one of the two of those at some point, but they wanted to name. I was the firstborn, so Dad wanted to make me a junior, which I love. So.
Yeah. No, that's totally awesome. We toyed with that with Bruce of like what do we do it name wise? Actually, at the time we lived in Richmond, and the people next to us, couple next to us, were pregnant just ahead of us.
Mm,
So they ended up having a son, I don't know, within 6 months, maybe a couple months of Bruce being born. And the name they went with was Jack, and that was on our short list was Jack. And I
uh,
really liked the name Jack.
yeah.
So we ended up going with Bruce because his mom's uncle was named Bruce. So we got a family connection there. And he was actually FBI. Interesting story. One day I really need to dive into it more. He was an FBI agent, worked in Washington, did a lot of like counter surveillance type of work, ended up
Mm,
supposedly committing suicide.
mm,
That's what the official story is.
okay.
But like if I recall correctly, they were even told at one point like the file was sealed by the attorney general. So
Wow.
there's some shady stuff going on there. And I always had
Mm,
said one day I'm gonna get enough connection or enough whatever that I'm gonna
yeah.
see that file and figure out what actually happened to Uncle Bruce. So
Oh man, that's interesting, dude. Yeah,
yeah.
that's man, I don't believe anything anymore. I don't believe in any. I don't. If it has U.S. government attached to it or anything like it, forget about it. I don't trust it.
This will air
I don't
within a
believe it.
few weeks because I'll probably air it to start promoting our horror anthology a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, you got to stay off social media, which I don't. But social media, like, a buddy sent me a post yesterday, and it was Trump, basically Jesus,
Yeah,
putting his
that's
hand on the
terrible.
guy.
Yeah.
And they asked him about it, and he was like, "I'm a doctor, Red Cross or something." And I'm
Yeah,
just kind
that's
of like,
he's bullshit, man. That like that one, let's not get into politics, but
no,
that
no,
one
like,
really that one I do not support that at
yeah.
all. So,
No, I do avoid politics on this. I avoid religion, all that. But
yep.
sometimes those life things, especially for writing, those life events that happen end
Hmm.
up, for me, at least getting my brain to start thinking about the process. Or
Yeah.
if I'm writing something, it might be able to not take a real world situation and put it in the book, but take something that happened in the real world and like, how do I fictionalize this? How do I make it relevant? Or how do I maybe
Mm.
right a wrong sometimes of like what's happening in the world? And I kind of did that with the president I created
Yeah.
for the series. It's
Sure.
like I don't want some shyster in there. They're all shysters to some degree.
Hmm.
But could we still have someone in there that does have core values that goes to them? And I thought, yeah, I can put that in there because I'm writing the damn book. It's
Well, and
my project.
that's the person everyone wants the president to be, you
Correct.
know. And so it kind of it gives you a foundational character that that you can rely on, which is how we as we all want our president to be the protagonist. We all want the president to be the good guy, and that just never happens. So I like that, man.
Well,
That's probably a good move. I don't think that anyone could look. This isn't a critique of the president, but I don't think anyone could have written that character. No one could write Trump
no.
like I don't know without having any inkling of who he is or what he would be about or how he would act or like I think that would have been like the closest thing, and this is and it's kind of become a trope, but is the president an idiocracy, right? I mean, that's kind of
Hmm.
the closest thing where you have like this celebrity president who, and we've had celebrity presidents before. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Reagan and Roosevelt. Theodore
Yeah, Rough
was
Rider.
a yeah
Yeah.
was kind of was a very much a celebrity prior
Yeah.
to. Um, but you know, look, and then none of them are perfect, but they seem to have some, like their personality locked down, like in a way that,
Right.
you know, would work was presidential. No one could write this dude, man.
No.
Like no one could no one could make this up.
Well, you guys went to CERN during one of your one of the times you were over in Europe, and I think they did screw up the timeline somehow because
Look, man, if you want to go down a rabbit,
no,
I'm not giggling about that. Like
this isn't
I'm not,
Taco Tuesday.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that something hasn't happened. We wouldn't know, first of all. People talk about the Mandela effect. Well, of course, look, man, I'll get into the block universe and how maybe the Mandela effect is real because it is real because the block universe is real and everything is
Right.
happening all at once the time isn't linear and maybe we remember remnants of things, but if time is linear, then the Mandela effect is a moot point. But
Yeah.
we wouldn't know if time is linear, right? We wouldn't know if they had changed something, but I'm not so convinced that look, our there's some gentlemen have won a couple of years ago won a Nobel Prize for proving that our universe isn't locally real.
Hmm.
Which means that that if you're not around to observe something, it's not there.
Right.
It's not there until it's observed, which the double slit experiment uh, uh, proved that light acts as a waveform until it's observed, and then it becomes a particle, which was
Hmm.
odd as hell, right? So our universe is not what we think it is. That's why UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, paranormal Bigfoot, the stuff. I'm super interested in this stuff because I don't think that it's paranormal. I think it's normal, and we just don't know about it and don't understand it. And
Yeah.
and our world is far more effed up than we have known to this point.
Right.
And look, you talk about staying off of Instagram. I've this is not that it's good for my mental health, but I've trended toward paying more attention to what's going on and listening to more people because I want to consume the information that's out there and then make a call a judgment call for myself, and the only way to really do that is for me to kind of stay more plugged in than I'd like to be. Because I'm one of these people that I want to know what the real world is for
Hmm.
better or worse. And maybe I don't ultimately when everything's all hashed out, maybe I don't really want to know because maybe it's
Yeah.
too messed up, but I would like to think that I want to know how it all works. And so uh, the only way to really kind of get close to that is to consume all the information you can and then parse out what you think is BS and not,
Hmm.
and it's hard to know, but it's what that does too, man, is that keeps me from being married to an opinion.
Sure.
I'm married to my values and I'm married to my faith,
Yes.
right? Those things aren't going to change.
Right.
Like someone could come along and tell me, and you can read it, it happens all the time. Aliens made up Jesus, to control humans and blah blah blah.
Right.
Like these are things that like I read,
Oh yeah.
and it's like no one's ever going to make me believe that. Like I believe in my faith and have my values, but everything outside of that stuff, man, I can be swayed,
Hmm.
outside of my values, to man, I really thought that this was real and I really thought this was the way things are, but I'm starting to realize,
Yeah.
and it starts with politics too with me. It's like I'm swaying. Actually, I don't think I'm swaying. I think I'm staying in one spot, but I'm not moving with the tide,
Hmm.
Again, those
Yeah.
values, those
Mhm.
things that I'm committed to,
Right.
I hang and as I watch Trump, sail off into the sunset in Trump land, doing whatever it is he's doing right now. I'm
You
not
watch
sure what
Trump
that is.
Jesus.
I don't believe in 5D chess like everybody else does. It's like I don't think guys playing chess. I think he's shooting from the hip and
Yeah.
he makes it look like he had it all figured out. But some of the stuff I can't get on board with, so I'm not going to get on board with it.
Right.
And you have to be willing to and here, this is a great segue into writing, right? I mean,
Mhm.
in writing, it's like, you have a story figured out that you're sure this is what the story is going to be. And then as you're writing it, you're surprised by who appears, when they appear, how they appear,
Yeah.
the characters that don't appear that you were sure were going to appear.
Hmm.
You can't be married to that thing, that construct that you've built for your story. It's
Right.
it's it's the most painful thing. It's just like life. It's the most painful part of writing, but the most exciting part of writing is for me has been uh I've got this is my construct. I've got my outline and this is what's going to happen. Now I just have to
Hmm.
write the story and you sit down and write and then within the first 5 minutes you're flung off into some other corner of this universe that you didn't even know existed with someone you didn't know existed.
Right.
And then you're in a panic. You're super excited about this thing. Then you're in a panic about, well, how do I get back to my
How do you get back?
story? Well, maybe that's not your story. Maybe
Yeah.
this is your story. And maybe you will get back around to the thing. It's important to know where you're going, but at the same time, you can't be married to that thing that you've built,
Yep. Yeah.
And
I love
and
it.
so
For me, I love it. Like when I sit down at night, I've switched my process over the years. I used to be 100%, well, let's say 98% pantser. I kind of knew how I was going to start the story, and I
and
knew
what
how
was that? What was that term you used?
pantser,
Okay, I don't know what that is.
fly by the seat of your pants, basically,
Okay,
type writer,
pantser. Okay,
versus
got it.
being an outliner,
I thought it
where
was a tank. No.
some authors will like write the not the worst example. It's bad to say the worst. The most uh, uh, over the top example I can think of is a guy named Kyle Mills who was writing for the Vince Flynn books for a period of time. He would
Okay.
write a 40,000 word outline where he could
Wow.
wake up in a morning and say, let me write chapter 27. And he'd have chapter 27, pretty figured out, and he would write chapter 27. The next day he'd get up and go, I'm feeling like a 65 day. And he'd go write
So,
chapter 65. And
but is this after he had his outline done?
yeah, so he'd create the
Okay.
40,000 word outline, and then he'd go back to the outline to actually write the book, and he would just go back to that. So he would spend an enormous
Okay.
amount of time crafting his outline to begin with, basically.
Huh.
I've never done anything remotely like that. I'm a little bit more now, like the book that I'm trying to finish this month, and I'm woefully behind. Um,
I don't believe you, man. You write more than anybody I know.
No, I no, I don't. No, 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 I don't. You're just you see a little glimpse of my life and see my BS social media stuff, and you think this guy's amazing. I'm not that.
I get a book in the mail every 2 months, man. What are you talking
Every
about?
6 months I send you a book. Come on now. And I think I skipped one. I don't think I sent you Supreme Justice. I can't remember if I
I
did or
think you
not.
no, you did. You did
I
send me
did.
that,
Okay.
actually.
I
Yeah.
thought I skipped one. But that's why I need notes. See, I'm gonna forget. No, but to like sit down and come up with the stuff and to not know where I'm going. Like I used to, I still do not know where I'm going. But like with Downfall, like I wrote the last chapter a couple months ago, which I've never done before. Because I was thinking, how do I want to end this book? And I spent some time one night on my back deck just thinking about it. And I'm like, damn, why don't I just write the last chapter? So I just blew out the last chapter because I knew how, I don't know how I'm pulling, and I still don't know how I'm pulling it in. I got like six lines going together there that need to intersect in the next 10,000
Yeah,
words.
but don't let them not do what they need to do, right?
Oh no, no, they'll do it.
Yeah.
No, no, the ending is the ending. You'll see it one day. The ending
Okay.
works. The ending works for this book. It ties in. It's only a main character basically. It's not everyone in there. So yeah, the story will do. It always, for me at least. I've not so far backed myself into a corner where I can't get out of. And I think in the back of my head, that part that I can't access that's really taking place, I think I have figured out a lot of it. And
Hmm.
I think my brain just like the muse let's drops a little bit more out every night. Because I wrote a chapter the other night. I was talking to Bruce about it on the phone last week, where I'm like, what am I doing with this chapter? And I'm like, okay, I need to, this guy's a bad guy. How do we catch this bad guy? And I'm like, what if we use the president? Okay, we're going to use the president. I need to track him though. How am I going to track him? I'm like, what if the president, after one of the cabinet meetings, goes up to him, basically like, "Man, you've been working hard. I'm proud of you. I know that this commerce job is difficult. I want to give you something." What if the president gives him American flag lapel pin? Yeah. What if that American flag
Uh,
lapel pin is a GPS, camera, microphone, and we're going to catch this son of a gun, and the
hmm.
president's the one to kind of pin it on him. And if the president pins someone on you, you're probably going to keep that pin with you
Yeah.
every day you go to
That's,
work. And it was one of those things where I got done writing that chapter that night and I was like, damn, yeah, I don't
yeah,
know
that's
how that
good, man. Yeah.
flows.
Yeah, it feels
So
good.
yeah, it feels really good. It feels really, and
Yeah.
it's never not felt good. And maybe the time I start writing that I get to that point where I don't enjoy it is the time I either need to step away and I do step away. So as much as you think I'm a machine, these last couple of years, the reason I've been able to put two books out is because I wrote a bunch of books long before I got published. So
Mm.
I've been able to go back to those, which weren't publishable books, but the concepts were publishable. So
Mm.
I've been able to go back in and take a book that would normally take me 6 months to write. In 3 months, I can retool it,
Got it.
put it out. So I'm going
Yeah,
to run out of that here in another
we
year.
call that in songwriting, we call that Song Mountain.
Song, there you go.
Song Mountain, like like Song Mountain is all the stuff that you've never used, the bad songs, the songs that never got released, the lyrical ideas you never did anything with, and you know, it's like it's currency.
Yeah,
It's like Song Mountain is currency. It's I mean, just every record that we do with Shinedown, at some point I've got some lyric that I pulled off a Song Mountain or a guitar lick that I pulled
sure.
off a song. I mean, a symptom of being human, that was a piano lick that I had that I wrote in 2013
Wow.
for an American Idol kid. Like it was a song that was to be I forget what the kid's name was, but it was a track we were working on for an American Idol person, and it never got used. But I always liked that lick, and we were working on the record, and I just happened to have it somewhere, and I clicked on it. I was like, "What is this? Oh, that's a cool lick!" And so we turned it into a guitar lick.
Nice.
But it's Song Mountain, man. It's like that's currency. Like that thing that I wrote in 2013, I didn't even think about it. It was dead to me. It was like I
Mhm.
didn't know it even existed. I hadn't thought about it, and then all of a sudden, here it is, and it becomes the the band's second, well, I guess third best performing top 40 hit of all time,
All time.
and so
So how
uh
do you access Song Mountain? Like what's that drive that gets you back to that 2013 moment?
oh,
What's the process?
I've got journals and lyrics in my phone and lyrics written down and I mean I don't have a specific example for this record. I mean, it happened on this record for sure,
Hmm.
where I reached in and pulled some lyrics that, oh man, that's a cool lyric and that'll work here. It's a cool concept and that'll work and work here. Uh, Sometimes Song Mountain isn't always realized like uh, a symptom of being human was realized.
Right.
Like that's a pretty spectacular example of something that you pull from a long time ago that ends up being a hit, right?
Hmm.
They're not always going to be hits, but like you're pulling, you know, uh, it's just uh, it surprises you. Like there's not like a Song Mountain folder or something that I have,
Right.
or like, but I save everything. I save all of the song ideas in some sort of demo form and they're on hard drives,
Yeah.
or I've got I think in my iTunes I've got a bunch of like song idea stuff. I mean, Song Mountain was a big part of my solo record. Was like some of that stuff, not all of it, but some of it was like me going back through stuff that I'd recorded that I thought was terrible, and it
Hmm.
was terrible. A lot of it is terrible in the form that it's in.
Sure.
But when you take that nugget out of that thing and put it in over here, then it
Yep.
becomes magical, right? And so nothing's ever dead. And again, that's why I say it's currency. And so what you're talking about with having, books that you'd written or story ideas that you had written or outlines that you've never done anything with, that stuff is that's gold, man.
Yeah.
You just so that's why you know. Some people will say always finish every song, even the bad ones. I don't subscribe to that necessarily. Sometimes I do that with paintings. Like I make myself finish
Hmm.
bad paintings.
Yeah.
Like I just need to finish it and get it done because that's not such a time-consuming thing for me. That's a couple of hours of my life. But
Right.
and that's important too to go back and look at those things and go, yeah, I still hate this, but I finished it,
I still hate it.
But the bad song thing for me is sometimes that can be a waste because if you're heading in a direction a song is just not going to be
Hmm.
something not that it's not going to be maybe a hit or something, but it's not driving you emotionally.
Yeah.
Why finish it? Let's move on to something else. And I move on to things a lot, but those half finished things and the things that that stuff's never dead. You
Well,
know.
we're trying we're going to try to focus on writing, but so much of what you're writing crosses between whether it be short story that we're going to talk about, whether it be writing that became what your album was, or
Mhm.
writing that becomes Shinedown. Um, Real quick, so when you talk about stuff that you kind of finish, and maybe you knew it wasn't that good going along, but you still got it done. And not saying that you have stuff that wasn't good that you finished, but like for Shinedown 8, this is a big album. What, like eight?
Yeah,
I think I've heard
18.
I heard a couple songs at the studio a couple years back,
Mhm.
and I know what's been ever come out. So I maybe have heard six or eight of the songs, but I think what 18 you guys have on this
18,
one?
18 songs. Yeah.
18. And how many did not make the album? Was there
Uh, that's all of them.
Oh, was
Actually, this
that
is the
all of
first. Yeah, we it
them?
was
Okay.
we look. I as the producer of the record, and I've said this on I'm on record saying this. I'm not shy about it. There are two songs that I would not have put on the record personally. I would have left them off. Um, but I got outvoted, so all the songs are there, and the sequence on the record I think should have been a bit different.
Hmm.
But again, man, I have to kind of pick my battles with certain
Sure.
things, taking the two. Not that I didn't like the two songs, but if you take the two songs off of the record, it's a more cohesive album.
Yeah, that makes
But there
sense.
were, but there was a song on the last record I didn't want on the record,
Right.
and I think Attention, I think was a good had everything on it that needed to be on it, um, but yeah, I
Songs are
mean
a
it.
powerful thing though, and that you don't always like for me from a fan, obviously we're friends, but I'm a fan, which is really cool to be able to kind of get past that medium of like,
Yeah,
hey, that's not just my favorite artist. That's I'm a friend of him, so it's pretty
right.
cool. But even when stuff comes out, sometimes you're like, I don't know, like when what was it, man? Probably like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago when you guys first started kind of teasing everybody. I guess it wasn't two, but a year and a half.
About a year ago,
Um,
yeah.
Dance Kid Dance. I remember when Dance Kid Dance came out, which I really enjoy Dance Kid Dance. But I will say the first couple times I listened to it, I was kind of like, I like 365, man. I don't Dance Could Dance. I'm not sure. It's
Yeah.
not wasn't that it was a bad song. It just hadn't grown on me. And then it was on my playlist, and I'm a creature of habit. So when I have a playlist, it's on in the shower, it's on while I'm driving, when I'm hiking. Um, and the more I listened to it, the more I was kind of like, okay, I'm catching it now. I'm seeing why it's here in my head. And then when you guys did it on tour last year, freaking was awesome. It was awesome. So it was kind of that almost that transition of a song from like it's okay to like
Yeah.
I'm really digging this
And
song.
dude, it's fine. Like I'm the last guy to get offended by someone not liking a song that I've done. I mean, I was able to drop that thing a long time ago. And it's healthy. Sometimes it's more painful than others to sometimes it's more painful than other times to, when someone says something, about your art or about your, whatever this thing you created. But,
Hmm.
you have to just kind of be okay with I've learned to not have that knee jerk get mad. I
Yeah.
don't respond to anybody. I actually respond. I responded to one guy about my solo record. He did a YouTube review of it and just absolutely trashed it,
Just
dude. This is the worst thing I've ever heard,
oh
and
jeez.
it's ill-conceived and all of this. Like he just went in hard, man. Like and like in a mean spirit. You can tell he's trying to get clicks. He's like in a mean-spirited way.
Right. Yeah.
And I just sent him a message on Instagram and I was like, "Hey man, appreciate your honesty. Thanks." And that was it. Like, because that's
Yeah.
his honest opinion. That's, whether he's trying to get clicks with it or not. It
Mm.
actually, it served two purposes for me. One was with the solo record, not with Shinedown. With the solo record, like, I set out to make something different.
Hmm.
Therefore, as I was making it and as it was being constructed, and even when I released it, there's not going to be anybody lukewarm to this record.
Hmm.
Like it's either going to be, I think this is fucking awful or I love this.
Right.
And it proved to me, it was like that proof of concept of like, this guy absolutely thinks this thing sucks. So I was, it actually made me smile a little bit. It's like, yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's what this is supposed to be. That means that I didn't set out to alienate people, but like,
Right.
I don't want to make anything middle of the road, you
Yeah.
know? And so I
Something
really
you
want to
did
try to
create elicited an emotion, basically.
I want to try to
Positive.
extend myself into a place where there is no middle ground, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think I went far enough. Like some of the stuff that I'm working on to put out next, um, you know, I you know, and I'm not doing it just to be weird. Like there really is that thing of like I'm in a blessed position to be in a band where I write popular music,
Right.
you know? And so for a hobby, I like to write not popular music,
Yeah.
And so, uh, and not just to see if I can be weird or something. It's really how that's what my brain sounds like.
Yeah.
I have to rein myself in with Shinedown, man,
Right.
like a lot. Um, and I'm not like a Zappa or something, man. That guy's a genius. It was
Hmm.
absolute genius, or a Steve Vai or somebody like that. But I definitely have this proclivity to not wanting to just do the same thing over and over again, the thing I've heard
Sure.
before, and
Yeah.
and so so yeah, man, that helped me with that, seeing that comment or listening to him absolutely trash the thing, worked on that level for me, and then it
Hmm.
also worked in a therapeutic level for me to thank him for bashing my thing rather than my monkey brain primal urge was to lash out.
Yeah.
It always is. You don't
Right.
understand. You didn't, because you put all this time and effort into
Oh
this thing.
yeah.
But there is a quieting that can happen in your soul when you sort of embrace those things and embrace
Hmm.
the fact that someone doesn't like it and smile about it and just kind of go, well, that's just their opinion and that's what it is,
Yeah.
very much like what your mom would have told you when you were a kid, but you didn't understand it. And now that
Right.
I'm older, I get it. And just there's a it's like breaking out of jail, man. There's a freedom in that, of like, okay, well, I'm just gonna, and believe it happens all the time, man. I'll see somebody, I mean, I'll see somebody make some comment about something, man, and I'm just like, "Grr," you start in with that you feel it down here,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like it's
Absolutely.
inside of you, and then You just I literally will just take a deep breath, let it out, smile about it, and move on. And
Yeah.
that is, man. I've unchained myself in a way with that. So, the fact that you didn't like Dance Kid Dance at first doesn't bother me one bit. And you know, uh, you know, it, I can't say it doesn't bother me one bit. See, that's a lie. It I would love it if you loved it out of the gate. That would make
Sure.
me feel even better, And so it's not like I don't have any reaction,
Yeah.
any negative emotion when someone says something like
Right.
that.
Absolutely.
But I've learned that that's not where the my worth is, I guess, is that if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Well, I think from a fan perspective, especially if they've gone deep, if they've listened to a lot of the songs, you have a preconceived notion of who this band is. So if a
Hmm.
song comes out that doesn't hit, well, this is Shinedown. Well, okay, if your brain goes, well, that doesn't sound exactly like Shinedown, you immediately have this like pullback sometimes of like, wait, what is this?
Yeah, yeah.
That's when you have to
Oh,
be open to
wait
stuff.
till you hear the rest of the record. The rest of the new record.
I'm
This
waiting.
is
What? I gotta wait
I
till
have I
May.
actually like I think this is the most non-Shinedown record we've ever made.
But
Like
see,
if there is a Shinedown record.
that I think also is an awesome thing because, as we get to talking about writing here and stuff, there needs to be in any kind of a creative field an evolution that takes place.
Yes.
I know the big uh, music industry might say, like, the Taylor Swift world, or not bashing Taylor Swift, but like something that sells and sells
Hmm.
a shitload. What
Hmm.
does the industry want? More. Give me more that sounds just like that. Put your spin on it because we want to make more money to some degree at least. So to actually like get out of your shell, to create something new. I circle it back a lot of times, and I know Zach's a big fan. Shinedown's on my Rushmore, but U2 got there first. So I'm a
Hmm.
huge U2 fan. Well, if
Yeah.
you look at U2 from the 80s to the 90s to 2000s, an album like Pop came out, or an
Hmm.
album like Achtung Baby, or, whatever,
Yeah.
totally different sounds. And like Pop, especially, it fell
Hmm.
flat for a lot of people. They're like, what the heck is this? But there's some songs on there. If you actually listen to the album with a fresh perspective years later, you're like, man, some songs on that hit. They're
Yeah.
different, but they hit really good.
Yeah.
Or you don't like them, and that's okay. But the fact that and of course you could say, well, they had the opportunity to take a leap because they don't have the pressure that maybe, an artist has that,
No,
well,
man,
this is back in selling
there's
album world. But
there's always that pressure. Like at least for me, it's the pressure on myself. It's not
yes, correct.
you know, yeah, I want to make something that blows me away, and if I don't feel like I'm doing that, then there's a problem. But if I'm doing something that I think I heard James May on Top Gear or Grand Tour. I don't know if you ever
Mhm.
watched Grand Tour, but that's one of my favorite shows. He says it has to give him the fizz.
The
A car
fizz.
has to give him the fizz, which means I can tell you what that means, but this is probably a PG show, so I won't.
Yeah,
But
well,
it says it gives him the fizz, and like if I'm working on something and it doesn't do that, it doesn't make me, you know,
right.
feel something, then I'm worried about it. But if it does,
Yeah,
then how the public perceives it and takes it. Not that I mean, look, yeah, it's our profession, right? It's like it is a worry that you'll make something that is so uh, divisive that you kill a career.
right,
That would have to you would have to like, and I say this to every artist and musician out there, like the amount of 180 you would have to do to kill a career with your art is uh, orders of magnitude beyond anything you think it is.
yeah,
Uh, and it's happened, but again, those people have gone like, look, if we put out an orchestral record with an Inuit monk chanting over the top of it and called it Shine, yeah, okay,
yes.
that's right. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Might have an issue.
That's an order of magnitude the other direction greater than anything I'd be willing to do, right?
Right.
So, you might not make your most popular record, but I'd rather, and I'm being very honest here. Now, we've earned ourselves a place of having some legacy material, right?
Hmm.
So, I'm not saying that no one should ever worry about this or anything, but for me, I might not make my best record, but it might not be the best. Let's see. I think I try to make my best record every time. We try to make our best record every time.
Yeah.
How it's received, I can't do anything about.
Right.
But I feel like there's nothing that I'm going to do that's going to cause irreparable damage to my career. So why not do what makes me happy and what makes me feel good? And if I've done that, if I can listen back and go, okay, this makes me feel amazing. I think like I love this so much, then I feel like the fans are going to love it. And you're not going to tap in. There's some fans that like the really heavy stuff, and some fans that like the more mid-tempo thing, and
Right.
so I can't account for that stuff. But I'm just saying the fan of Shinedown, I think, is going to love what we've done. And I say it's the least Shinedown record we've done. Um, this record kind of reminds me a little more of like Threat to Survival, which was sort of uh, a transitional record for Shinedown. If I look at Shinedown's trajectory, and this is never on purpose. It's just literally like sort of the the uh, the curve that our albums make in a way is, you have, and the only anomaly to this is the first two records, but you have Leave a Whisper, big hit, establishes the sound of the band,
Hmm.
establishes the band itself. Then you've got Us and Them, which I downticks a little bit, and it's a little more experimental. It's which is interesting for a second record. But that experimental time and sort of this trough, and I'm not saying it's trough like it's a terrible record. It's a
Hmm.
transitional record,
Right.
leads to the Sound of Madness, which is back up to this peak.
Yeah.
And then we hold that for a couple of records, that kind of peak of like, Sound of Madness, Amaryllis, like this. And then Threat to Survival is a little more experimental, and you're kind of in this
Hmm.
transitional period. That leads back up to Attention, Attention,
Yeah.
which is to me is back up here, and then Planet Zero, and then you've got this record. I think it's a little more transitional. It's
Yeah.
not. I'm using this trough not to say that it's bad.
No,
Trough isn't bad. Trough is just
yeah.
is just transitional, experimental, kind of trying some different things out.
Yep.
A little bit, maybe a little bit more of a. I won't say cobbled together because it's not cobbled, but like uh, uh, pulling in a lot of different things into a project.
Hmm.
Um, More focus on song, less focus on record,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And then I think that eventually, and I don't know what's down the line. I can't tell you what the next Shine Hour is going to look like, but I would be willing to wager that it will probably be a more focused,
hmm
refocusing. 'Cause That
well, you've
just
had what,
seems
two
to be.
concepts in a row, right? Two concept
Yeah, and
albums in
and
a row.
and
So,
neither one of those we did, and I've said this, you know, I was going to say famously, but I'm not famous. But I've said this a lot, that neither one of those records were intended to be concept records. They just
yeah.
ended up being concept records, and
Right.
and and so not intentionally. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, so this isn't a concept record. This is just a collection of songs. But Sound of Madness was a collection of songs, and Amaryllis was a collection of songs.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, it, uh, I don't think it needs to be a concept record to be focused, but
Right.
uh, uh, more focus on album sound than song sound. I guess maybe that's a better way of putting it. Like this record that we're about to release, and you can hear it on the songs we've released so far, uh, are more song centric than album
Hmm.
centric,
Well, and
I
you
think.
started writing some of these songs really while were you on Planet Zero tour when you started writing some of these, or or did it start
Yeah, after the tour, yeah,
after the tour? Okay.
yeah, yeah. It was a long process. This
Yeah.
record it's a painful process for me, very
Yeah.
painful.
We,
But
we talked about it just in person when I was
yeah,
down
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Because I remember when Bruce and I were there, and you were just, you're at that stage of like, man, do I have another album in me? Because you had
yeah,
your own album getting ready to come out.
right.
You had a lot of stuff, other stuff you want to work on, and then I know from just knowing you and having conversations is it's one thing to be in a band and have your job to do. This is your job. You have to play this instrument. You have to write this song. You have to do whatever. It's a completely another thing when, okay, you're producing this album, you're mixing
Hmm.
this album, you're actually pulling these pieces together, it's that added pressure of, you don't just come in and do your job and be like, cool, I can check out. It's not a 9 to 5 checkout thing.
Yeah.
It's like you're living in this thing for many, many, many months, if not
No, it's a
years.
4 a.m. until midnight thing
Yeah,
every day,
every day.
while it's going on. Yeah,
Right.
and not to sound melodramatic, but it's kind of an I'm kind of amazed that it exists and I exist at the end of it. I figured one of us would go down,
At the same parallel time.
Yeah. So,
Well,
um,
hey, I mean, it comes out in a month, comes out in what, in May 18th?
May 29th.
29th. Okay.
Yep.
So you got through it. It's gonna come out, and
Yep.
then you're gonna hit the road, and then you're gonna be you're you're gonna be playing these songs and some of the favorites there
Yep.
for a period of time.
That's it. That's it for sure.
Looking forward to it. I know I was kind of looking at the schedule a couple months ago because I don't have any advance like where you guys are playing. I kind of knew what the tours were going to look like where you guys were going roughly a while ago, but no like specifics. So just like with every other fan, like the list pop out and I'm like, ah, cool. Okay, where can I make it to? And I was like Knoxville, and okay, I think
Hmm.
you guys are playing in Connecticut. I was like, in July maybe. I need to look at the schedule. It's like maybe I'll fly up and see my family and go up to the casino, probably Mohegan Sun, I guess. I haven't
Yep.
even look that far. You just added Charlotte, so I'm like,
Yep.
I can make it to that one. Hopefully Bruce will be with me. But I actually have one that I have not told you about. Told John a while ago. Totally, people listen to this and be like, BS, this isn't a coincidence. So I turned 50 in November this
Hmm.
year. Last year, I started planning a trip to like, okay, you turn 50 once. I want to just have fun. And I'm doing it before I turn 50 because of where I'm going.
Sure.
I was like, I just want to blow this out and have a fun, like, celebrate life and the journey of life. Reached out to a bunch of friends, and three of them were like, we're in. So there's four of us going on this trip. Got it all planned. I'll tell you where I'm going. And I'm like, such an interesting thing happened because you guys released your tour schedule and you just happened to be in New Zealand. The week we'll be in New Zealand,
All
and then
right.
in
Yeah.
Australia the week we're in Australia. And I'm looking at the schedule and I'm like, wait, we're there those days. No, wait, we're there those days. And I'm like, what is the chance of going overseas? Of course, then I texted the guys. I was like, you guys won't believe it. Shinedown's going
Yeah.
to be there. And they're like, can you hook us up? Like, maybe we could. I might know
Maybe.
somebody, but
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm still in I need to start buying all the tickets and all that. End of this month, early May. I don't want to wait too long, but like I want to go to Hobbiton in New Zealand. I want to see where the Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings, kind of do the
Oh
fun
man, I'd
do.
love to see that. Yeah, that's I think we're trying to work it out to where we've got a couple of days to like vacation before the thing starts,
Yeah, well, you need a
So
couple days just to adjust, just the time wise.
yeah, so I got to read you said 50 and my legs started acting
Say
weird.
your legs start aching. So I'll
I
send you a
normally
link. I'll text you a link for the Hobbiton thing because I've looked it up. You need to
okay.
buy the tickets in advance. If Will Kelly be with you?
She's thinking about it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you guys can go, or if you and John and you Barry, whatever, go. I think it's worth going to see. You won't be. I'll tell you the details of it. It's not far from where you'll be. So yeah, but I just thought that was cool. I was like, what is the list? Because I was fortunate, a couple years ago, saw you guys in Wales.
Hmm.
It's like okay, I don't think I'll see any Europe ones this year. That trip's gonna kind of bankrupt me probably. So it's like plus time wise, I told my
Yeah.
boss earlier this year, I was like, I need 2 weeks off, and either get 2 weeks off or I'll give my notice.
Yeah.
I have to draw because I've never taken 2 weeks off besides the kids being born, which was a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Sure.
He was cool with it. I just had to schedule it where it doesn't interfere with like month end close and all that and quarterly close, and that's where September was like, okay, these dates in September fit all the bill. It's not winter there. It's coming out of winter, so
Yeah.
temperature wise should be okay. And then,
That's always the best part about touring in Australia is you go down there in the when it's kind of winter time here and you get to kick it into summer for a second, or down to
yeah,
South America, same thing, you get to
yeah.
like, that's always nice.
I've got an invite to Brazil for Thanksgiving. I think I probably told you this before. So every other year I don't have the kids, and kind of like why I saw you guys in Wales is the deal I made with myself after the divorce was I don't want to be 30 minutes away from my kids on Thanksgiving. It's not that I can't see them, but I won't get the day with them. I won't get the meal with them. And it's like, I'd rather just not think about Thanksgiving that year, be kind
Yeah.
of in the typical stuff. And I don't want to go hang out with a friend or family. So I just decided leave the United States on that Thanksgiving of the kids and go to a country never been to. So
Yeah.
the last spell I've had was Wales with you guys or seeing you guys. I think I had dinner with Barry and John on Thanksgiving
Hmm.
at some Italian place in Cardiff. And then the next time was with my mom, and we were at the Guinness St. James
That's
Gate
right. Yep.
on Thanksgiving Day. So this year it might be Brazil. We'll see. We'll see if
Yeah.
we can make it down there. I don't know.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, well, I think you appreciate the fact of life's a journey.
Yeah, dude.
So often I've been telling this to people recently. I think, especially from a writing perspective, to get it back to writing,
Yep.
we're so focused a lot of times on finishing a project and getting to that destination of writing the end. And
Hmm.
what we find is when we finish that book and we put it out in the world or whatever, there's an emptiness, there's a hollowness there
Yeah.
because it was fulfilling to get there, and even if fulfilling for it to come out, but then that fades, and then your
Yeah.
body wants more dopamine. And what I try to remind myself and tell people is so often you need to focus on the journey to get to the end, not the
Man,
end of when you
that
finish it.
that is nothing is more true than that. And that's something that on this record and and other projects I'm working on right now, and again, I had to get old to figure it out, but it is that there is no finish line. I mean, if it's I think it's why people who retire don't some people who retire don't seem to live very long past
No,
retirement, right?
I
I
think males are dead within 6 years after retirement on
I
average.
don't have any. I have no. I will never retire
Yeah,
ever. My dad, if he hadn't gotten glioblastoma, which is sort of an outlier cancer,
right.
my dad was in his eight. He was 84 years old when he got sick. He had the body of a 64, 65-year-old. He just had a physical. He was working every day,
Hmm.
40 hours a week
Yeah,
on a construction site. He loved it. He loved doing it.
yeah,
I'm the same way. I'll never. I'll never retire, but there is no destination, and
yeah.
you know, uh, something that if you are a writer who's working on a book, um, and we'll keep it in the writer sphere. I make more records than I do books, but um,
For
you know,
now, for now.
yeah, you are. You have to prepare yourself, and this isn't just in the writing. I have artist friends who go through this with paintings or series of paintings that they work on or whatever, and
Hmm.
it's the postpartum thing that happens. You know, it you just need to prepare yourself for that because it is going to be a part of it. Like when you finish a big project and something you've been pouring your whole self into, and then uh, two things happen. And I will have to put this back on the record because it's just what's happened most recently. I um, I try to love the thing. I spend all my time having my moments and my feelings of accomplishment as I'm making it.
Hmm.
So those times when I get chills or I pat myself on the back because I made a good decision about something either songwriting wise or production wise or man, I love this song. I love this mix. I love this lyric I wrote. I love this part of this book that I'm working on. Love it in the moment because the minute I hit send, meaning I send it out to people, the minute that I hit send on that record and it goes to the label or it goes off to mastering or wherever it goes,
Hmm.
it doesn't belong to me anymore.
Right.
And I have to be accepting of that. Like
Yeah.
it is the bird has left the nest, and I have to harden myself to it a bit. This is just me personally,
Hmm.
but this is how I deal with it. I harden myself to it, and maybe that's why when people criticize it, it doesn't bother me
As
as much
much.
because
Yeah.
I harden myself. I kind of harden my heart a little bit, and
Yeah.
it's like you know, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to everyone else. They're gonna have
Hmm.
opinions. Um, the good feelings are not going to be as many anymore. Um, you go from this thing, you're the only, that's the thing about the producing and making the record thing with Shinedown for me that's interesting is that I mean, I would say for 85% of the record making process, I'm the only one in the room. I'm the only one making this thing, for a
Right.
large portion of the time, and I know it intimately. And I have to like that's when I get my sense of accomplishment
Hmm.
is what I'm saying. Like get your sense of accomplishment while you're doing it because you're doing the thing. You're doing the hard thing that not many other people are ever going to do. If you're
Yep.
writing a book, you are in a I mean, especially a novel, right? Or a novella, like you're in such a minuscule percentage of people who will ever do that.
We'll ever do it. Yeah.
And you don't think about that. You think everybody's writing a book. No, everyone is not writing a book,
Right.
you know? And you've taken the leap and you've mustered the courage and the faith in yourself to do this thing that means something to you. And I mean, especially, when you're in that like that trough of like just because every project has this thing where you start out and you're excited and then
Hmm.
it starts to reality sets in and the ceiling starts to come in on you
Yeah.
and you have to push yourself through that trough to
Yeah.
get back up to now the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Right.
When you're in that grind, you know, like that's when you should be proud of yourself. That's when
Hmm.
you should pat yourself on the back. That's when you get the good feelings about everything. Like I'm doing this thing that not many other people are doing.
Yeah.
Because once it's out, like the accolades, even when, look, I'm in a fortunate position to get some accolades, right? Win some awards, have some number one songs.
Hmm.
As much as important as that stuff is for the career, it means less to me than when I'm in the process of working on it. And and
Absolutely.
and those feelings of those good feelings of just I love this thing that I'm working on and I
Yep.
love this, this thing means so much to me. So if you're in that part of the process right now, or you're heading into that part of the process, take time in the moment to be proud of yourself. Take time in the moment to
Yep.
love the thing then.
Right.
Love it before love it before the world has a chance to hate it, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense, you know.
Completely makes
And
sense.
it never makes me feel any different. If the world hates the thing I've worked on, I don't feel any differently about it. I
Hmm.
never will.
Yeah.
Um, I've always maintained the same feeling about each record, each song, each
Hmm.
story, each painting, each everything. Like that
Yep.
that feels the same. It never changes. So the world's not going to taint my opinion of it, but like love it while it's yours
Yeah.
and only yours,
Yeah. Because
because that's a unique place to be. Yeah,
yeah.
we go kind of circling back around what we were talking about characters appearing in stories.
Mhm.
It's been making. I've seen it a couple of times recently, but someone released and I'm sure it's been out there, but someone tagged a letter that Tolkien was writing to someone, J.R.R.
Oh, okay.
Tolkien was
Yeah.
writing, and he's talking about how surprised he was when Strider appeared in the bar, or
Yeah.
how, or at the bed at the inn, or how he didn't have any idea who Sauron was, and then all of a sudden he's there.
Hmm.
And he's like, no one was more surprised than me. That's J.R.R. Tolkien talking about something that billions of people know about now, and a
Yeah.
world that's it's so deep. Talking about when only he, it was just him
Just
in that story,
that story. Yeah.
you know, and there's always going to be a moment of that where it's just you and the thing. And it might be a phenomenon. It might be that five people read it.
Hmm.
But either way, it's just you and the thing you're making
Yeah.
and being in that moment and appreciating it and loving it. Because once you hit send, it belongs to everyone else. It
Belongs
doesn't
to
belong to
somebody
you
else.
anymore.
Yeah.
And so I always there's just always this pause right before I hit send to send stuff out.
Hmm.
It's finished. I'm the only one who's heard it really.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, this is before that, like, Brent's usually the first one that gets it. So he's the first opinion about things.
Right.
And then from there, it becomes mass opinion, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and usually that's like I send it to Brent and then it gets thrown out into the world.
Sure.
And, but, there I I always take that pause right before I hit the send button and just take a deep breath and go, well, it's been fun. It's been
Yeah.
good. This has been a great relationship we've had. Now I
Hmm.
have to divorce you. I have to it's very much like that,
Oh
man.
no,
It's like
no, I
you
understand completely.
it's like being in the most loving relationship you've ever been in your life and then having to get a divorce and just doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You're all and maybe like a divorce on good terms. Like, I'm always going to love you, but I can't be with you.
Right.
And this is the part of being a creator that no one really prepares you for.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, but I encourage everyone to release their story. I encourage everyone to
Mhm.
put their book out, to put their paintings out into the world, to put their stories out in the world, their albums, their songs. You don't have to, if
Right.
again, some things. That's why it took me so long to release that record you've got sitting behind you there, is because I loved it so much.
Yeah.
It was mine. Like I
It
made
was
it for
yours.
me.
Yeah.
I did. I just made it for me. I made it to see if I could do it. I made it for
Right.
myself. And I waited a couple of years before I released it, just
Yeah.
because I was like, I don't know if I want to subject it to that, to the thing that I know is out there.
Yeah.
The people's opinions and all of that,
You
I'm
weren't
glad
sitting
I
in that chair, but you were in one of the chairs right in there where we sat across from you and listened to it for the first
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And I remember just watching you and like listening to this album. And then I think I even reached out to John there, that week or whatever, and I said, "Hey man, we were just down at Eric's, we heard the album." And he was like, like 8 people have probably heard that album or whatever the
Yeah.
number was. It was a small number.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
seriously? And then
Yeah,
I
it
felt
wasn't
like, holy cow, how did we get this access and how did we get to hear this? And then I think we still had to wait, what, a year and a half before
well,
it came out.
well,
Uh,
it's the guy who's got the model trains in his basement that no one ever sees,
that no
right?
one sees.
He's spent his whole life building this realistic diorama that's mind blowing, but it's for him and he never
It's,
shows anybody.
yeah.
You know, like I'm that guy for sure. And I
Part of you is that guy because your album is out and it's been out for a
yeah,
year. So you got to that point where you did release it.
correct, but it was a Rick Rubin interview that I saw that made me do it. And it's something I'd never thought about before. This is why I said you don't have to release it, but I encourage everyone to release
Yeah.
whatever they're working on. I encourage you to release it because he said something that I'd never thought about before, which is art doesn't exist until you give it to someone.
Yeah, I've heard that said
And
about you
it's
in
like
interviews.
that's the purpose of art is to give it to people
Yeah.
because and this is proven to be true. When I was looking at that album, I said, look, man, maybe my mom will be the only person that likes this, but I love it.
Hmm.
And but then the more realistic way of looking at it is I'm going to put this out there and this is going to be someone's least favorite thing they've ever heard and it's going to be somebody's favorite record they've ever heard.
My sons. So there you
Well,
go. You
that's
got
very
one.
nice. Uh,
You got
but
more
that's
than
the
one.
and that's not like, oh, I'm going to make somebody. No, it's not
No.
that. It's just
Right.
kind of the reality of making art and putting something out
Correct.
there. Someone is going to listen to this and hear a lyric that changes their life
Right.
for whatever, and it might be the most innocuous lyric on the record for me, but
Yep.
for them, it's the most powerful thing they've ever heard.
Hmm.
That's why you have to put it out,
That's why you have to put it out. Yeah.
and so, um, but and look, man, I've been through this process a lot. I won't say countless times. I could probably count them, but the
Hmm.
starting with it, pushing myself through a song, making myself finish the lyric, making myself finish the song, pushing myself through the production, writing a story, pushing myself through I've talked about this. I write in spurts. I have about a good hour and a half, 2 hours in me every day to where
Yeah.
it's like it's firing and it's
It's
happening
there.
and then it's
Yep.
gone. But sometimes, just like with songwriting, sometimes it's good to push through that diminishing returns part and then you maybe reach another gear. Sometimes it is all diminishing returns and nothing happens. But, you push yourself through these things. You push yourself through all of these parts of the process just to get into the next part of the process. Then you push yourself, this boulder's going up the hill, right?
Right.
That's a very common thing to say, but
Yeah.
pushing the
Absolutely.
boulder up the hill. And here's the thing. You get the boulder to the top of the hill. Think about that for a second. You've just pushed a boulder up the top of a hill.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. You get to the top of the hill. There is no ride down the other side.
Correct.
You shove the boulder over the thing. It rolls over a bunch of people on the way down, and you're standing at the top of this thing empty.
Yeah.
You're not going down the other side with the boulder,
Yep.
unless you let it kill you, which
Yeah.
I don't
Not advisable.
advise that. It feels like it wants to sometimes, and you feel like doing it sometimes, but I digress. Uh, so what do you do with that empty feeling? You're standing on top of the thing. There's only one thing to do.
Yeah.
You can do it one of two ways. You can parachute back down, or you can turn around and walk back down to the bottom of the hill and grab another boulder and go, oh
Yeah.
man, here we go again. And no one really prepares you for that. Again, I know
Right.
we're dwelling on this a lot, but it's so important
Yeah.
to understand that if you haven't, again, I'm speaking to people who maybe haven't done it or thinking about doing it. It's not to scare you. It, I am, we call it in our band, and we got this from Rob Cavallo, the producer. He, and I'd never heard someone coin it better than this, and it's just become a part of our band vernacular now. It's called staring down the beast.
Hmm.
It's the blank page, the blank canvas, the fresh Pro Tools session, the guitar in your hand with no song idea, and there is nothing in the creative world that will make you feel like a fraud more than that moment
Hmm.
of like, do I, oh man, I just completed this thing and
Yeah.
I got to do it again, and I don't know if I can do it again. And I mean, I am wildly like, if you, I put that in my top five fears
Hmm.
is is the blank
Like
anything.
the blank
Go
canvas.
be creative
Yeah.
because what we do to ourselves with just like with the we're talking about the story outline.
Hmm.
We create like, okay, I have to make this thing and it has to be this. It has to be this thing. And I don't know if I have that in me rather than just letting it take place. So I've been filming in the live room at the studio, building dioramas and miniatures for the establishing shots. So I can I'm doing my music videos for my record that I've released two of them,
Hmm.
but the whole project of the five or six music videos that kind of play like a short film,
Yeah.
I've been working on that for about a year. And I've been in there filming dioramas. So
Mm.
I've been like in old school 80s Star Wars style building models
I could see you
and
doing that.
placing them in the camera and then shooting this thing with, and so because instead of using AI or something like that, that I could,
Sure.
I like to, again, it's about the process, it's about
Yeah.
making the thing. And I just spent uh 3 weeks building one scene. It
Wow.
took me a day to shoot it. Not even a day. It took me 3 hours to shoot it. It was done. I spent 3 weeks building it. And yesterday I had to go in there, tear it down, and start building things for the next scene.
For the
But
next
I'm
one.
looking at this thing that I built, and I've done this is the third diorama now. I've got five to do. I'm looking at the final comp that I made in the program, of the final
Hmm.
edit, and it looks fantastic. And I go out there and I tear everything down and I start back with raw materials again. Here's a piece
Yeah.
of wood, piece of cardboard, a piece of plexiglass. I got to start, and it's like it feels like I'm never going to be able to get back to that thing that
Get
I
to that.
just finished.
Right. Yep.
And I've got that anxiety and that fear of starting this thing all over again.
Hmm.
And like, what if this is the time that I fail? You know? And maybe it will be one of the times that I fail. Maybe I'll have to do it a couple of times to get it right. But you just have to have the knowing and the knowing that you will do it again
Right.
and it will be finished again. And that's all. Just move forward
Move
into
forward.
that abyss, and you're walking into a dark fog and you can't see anything and there are monsters in there. But there's also treasure in there. There's
Hmm.
gold in there. You're walking into the dragon's cave, and what someone that's one of the best quotes ever. There's never going to be gold without a dragon, you know, and so you know you just have to put on your armor and walk into that space,
Hmm.
and it never gets easier. It never stops. Um, I'm 51 years old. I've been writing songs since I was in my 20s. I've been perf I've been doing music at a high level. What I consider a high level for in production and everything for about 20 years.
Yeah.
It never stops. That
Never
feeling
stops.
never goes away. It never diminishes. It's always that. And so you just have to get used to walking into the dark room with the monsters and just acknowledging that they're in there and moving forward. And you know, I'll end this diatribe with this, which is one of the my favorite quote of all time is Mel Brooks, and he was on
Yeah.
Inside the Actors Studio,
Hmm.
You're talking about of my generation and the generation before mine, one of the best comedic minds,
Oh,
one of the most
100%.
creative directors, funniest people, you know, Blazing Saddles, the producers, Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein, just a wildly creative mind. And James Lipton asked him, he said, "What is your greatest fear?" And he said that everyone will find out I'm a fraud.
Hmm.
And I get, in my naive way, and this was probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago that I heard that, but oh, you mean everybody thinks they're going to be found out.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks because that's the other thing too, man. I said I was going to end my diatribe, but about creative writing and about songwriting and about art is I think, at least in my case, I think we all think that the person that we look at and call a genius has it all figured out all the time.
Hmm.
Like that person knows exactly what they're going to make and exactly how it's going to look before they do it, and they do exactly what they intended, and they're a genius. And
Yeah.
it's just they just throw paint at a canvas, and it turns out great because they know exactly what they're doing.
Right.
And I don't know anything about what I'm doing, and therefore I have to hide my process, and I have to the end result is great, but man, if they could see all the mistakes I made and all of the bad lyrics I wrote and
Hmm.
this chapter that I threw in the trash because it was awful, they would know then that I'm not as good as they think I am.
Yeah.
And when that's not the case at all, the people that we herald as geniuses go through the same doubts and the same
Yeah.
fears, and they have to face down the beast, and they have to you know kill their babies and tear up these things that they think are good but it doesn't fit the project, and they have to go through all the bad lyrics and bad songs and bad chapters and you know terrible character development, and to get back around to the thing that we see in the end that we think is just so perfect
Hmm.
that it never had any moments like that.
Right.
And so when I heard Mel Brooks say, "My biggest fear is that everyone will find out I'm a fraud," I don't know if there's ever been a moment where something resonated more with me than
More.
that.
Yeah.
And being able to hear someone like him say that and be very serious about it. He wasn't laughing. He was
Hmm.
very serious.
Yeah.
That's become my MO now. It's like we're all if he's a fraud, then we're all frauds,
Hmm.
And by the way, Clint Lowry from Seven Dust, not long after that, this is how I know the universe is real. Uh, uh, he said something. It was when I was working on my solo record, he was working on his solo record, and I look up to Clint a lot for a lot of different reasons.
Hmm.
Um, but I said, "How's it going, man?" He goes, one minute you're a hero, the next minute you're a fraud, and it's like
Yeah.
that's it, man.
Yeah.
That is it in a nutshell. And
Absolutely.
so I think what this episode has become about is about perseverance,
Yeah.
and that is the most important thing that no one has ever told you about, I think, probably if you're just starting,
Yeah.
is the amount of perseverance you're going to have in multiple different disciplines in multiple different ways to get to the finish line.
Hmm.
And I mean, you're going to do it. And I mean, I've got video. I've been filming all the behind the scenes stuff of making all the movie stuff. I call it movies. My videos. It's not a movie.
Hmm.
It feels like a movie. Um, and I've been teaching myself how to be a videographer. I've been teaching myself how to be a director of photography. I've been teaching myself how to be an editor. I've been teaching myself how to build miniatures. I've been teaching myself all this stuff,
Yeah.
and uh, I've been documenting everything. And I've had a couple of moments, man, where I've had the camera in front of me and I'm talking, and I just get emotional about how things aren't going right. They're not going
Hmm.
well. I feel defeated,
Yep.
you know? And yet those times, at least right now, as I sit here, seem like a distant thing,
Yeah.
But in those moments, I wasn't sure I could continue doing this. I wasn't sure I could continue moving forward. So, no one is immune to it. Don't let them fool you, man. If someone is making something worth reading, if someone is making something worth looking at, worth listening to, they're going through this.
Yeah.
Whether or not they want to show you that is up to them. But don't think that you are having some unique experience and you're less than because you're having doubts and because you're having a hard time with it, pushing that boulder up the hill, or you're at the top and you're looking back over your shoulders like, I don't want to go back
I
down to
don't
the
want to go
bottom,
back down. Yeah.
you know. But
Well,
guess what? There's only one place to go.
great transition to something that we started together a couple years ago. Project that I didn't know it was ever gonna see fruition to, but I think our finish line is coming close now, maybe.
That'd be great.
This would be the part in the program where I'm gonna tell Nando, okay, put the graphic up. This is the cover reveal. I don't know if it's cover reveal, but I'll have Nando throw the cover up
Yeah,
for
yeah.
our project, The Writer's Block, which is a horror anthology. Um,
Yes.
John and I were talking about this a couple years ago and was like, let's do something. We're working on a novel together, which still not getting anywhere with that recently. And then the idea of like an anthology, bring in some of our favorite writing friends, or in the horror world, where's some good horror authors? And Mr. Eric Bass was someone that John was like, I think Eric can, and here we are, 2 years later. I
Yeah.
think we're going to stick to our date here, July 7th.
All right.
July 7th, I think, is going to be our. I was trying to find a date range where we can, probably do some sort of promo. And I'm like, okay, well, if you guys are on tour, that's going to make it hard with John. Let me find a window with the tours. Plus, I
Yep.
just having to pull the pieces together of my own stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we're finally there. And speaking of facing down the beast and facing in starting a project, you did a cool thing and you wrote a short story, which
Yep.
I think I was probably one of the first people to read
I think you were. I
since
think
I
you're the
helped
first
you
person I
edit
sent it to.
it.
Yeah. 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 Yep. That's it.
So that's probably the only one with a copy that's sitting on a tablet
Yeah,
right now.
and
So
it's not very horror-y. I don't, it's a horror anthology, but I didn't really write horror so much. I guess it is maybe in a way, and what's interesting about it is it's just sort of it's a concept that I just kind of popped in my head randomly. I was trying to think about what to write. I had a couple of different things I could write,
mhm.
and
Say the title for everybody.
I'm not a big horror fan. What's that
Say the title for everybody.
of my story? The Road to Shagri Gray.
There we go.
Yeah. Um, but what's interesting about it is I got to the end of it. I'm like, this isn't the end of the story. So I left mine to be continued
Yeah,
at the end because I've got. I was like, oh man, then this happens. I know where I kind of know where it's going.
yeah.
There'll be two more short stories I think that'll probably round it out. Um, uh,
And
but yeah,
you've not written
again,
them, right?
what's that?
Have you written them or no?
No, I haven't.
You haven't. Okay.
But I know, you don't forget those things.
Oh,
You
I know. No, no, I get that.
kind of know where it's going. Yeah, and that one was a difficult one to get right because it's kind of the way it kind of weaves and twists, and you
Hmm.
don't want to give anything away, but you don't want to you don't keep things too close to the vest, and
Hmm.
it's it was a it's been a minute since I haven't read it in a a long time, so it might not be great. It might be kind of terrible,
The
but
last thing I read before I went to sleep last night,
all right,
it's held up. It's good. I've really
okay.
enjoyed it. I was like, I can't wait to talk to him about it
I'll
today.
tell you what, man, the most difficult thing for me, and I'm such a visual person,
Hmm.
is writing visuals is really hard. Like it's something I would love to get better at. Is I love This is what I love about your writing. It's the same thing. You're so descriptive of the place and the surroundings and how things look and smell and feel. Like
Hmm.
I love reading stuff like that. Like I like to be immersed. I like to be dropped into the place. Not that and you know, not that you don't use your imagination, but I think that
Sure.
really great writers who write um visuals really well, or senses, you can sense something,
Hmm.
um create such a vivid imagery in my brain anyway.
Sure.
One person that comes to mind is Orson Scott Card, where Ender's Game was one of my favorite books.
Hmm.
I didn't read it when I was like, a lot of people say they read it when they were kids. I guess I'm stunted a bit, but I read it when I was in my 20s. Um, and I read the whole series, the whole Ender series, which gets why you talk about you don't see where something's going. I don't know if you've ever read that series or not,
I've
but
not. No.
it's The first book is definitely the anchor. I mean, it's a great, just a
Hmm.
great book. That series, I think they're one, two, three, 9 books, I
Okay.
think. It goes, man, it goes
It was deep,
way
huh?
way places you never saw it going. In the second book, it goes, it's like, wait a second, what just happened?
Yeah.
Uh, Wildly creative. But one thing that Orson Scott Card did was, I remember just the images I have of the battle school and of the computer that the kids work on, and uh, what Ender looks like, and what uh, what's this name? Val, I think is his sister. But what they look like, you know, so much so that when I saw the trailer for the Ender's Game movie,
Hmm.
it looked
Yeah,
it's
they
spot
got it.
on. It's exactly what I read. It's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I envisioned.
Hmm.
And so I would like to get better at that about writing, but I feel like I love being descriptive about places and things and what someone's hat looks like and what
Yeah.
what the air feels like, and the other thing that I have not been able to master at all, and this I've tried it a few different times, and maybe you've got some pointers for me, is writing action. I
Mm.
I've got a story that I'm working on with Rob Pryor, my artist buddy, and it's a he had this concept for a story. I just grabbed it and wrote like the first 3 chapters
Hmm.
and sent it over to him and said, "What do you think of this? The way this is panned out?" And he loves it. And I kind of know where the story's going, but like, there's an action scene where this guy's in a restaurant, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this dude turns around on the bar and like points us. It's not a gun, but in essence, points a gun at him.
Yeah.
And I'm reading this back and I'm like, this is the most wooden thing I've ever, in my brain, it's all exciting and I can see it happening.
Yeah.
But taking that action that you see and turning it into words that feel
Right.
visceral and in motion,
Hmm.
you know, I find really, really difficult, man. How do you solve that? Or is that just something that you have or you don't have?
A little bit of that. I think with anything with writing, it's just the more you do it, honestly, too, the more you read too. The more you read how people do it, because we're all
Mm,
uh Bono, shoot, it's one of the it's an acrobat, song acrobat. Every artist, every poet is a thief. Every art, what is it? Every liar is a thief. Every poet is a something. There's a line in there where like you're always stealing from something.
sure. Yeah,
Whether it's a movie you saw or a book you saw, it's all part of your subconscious and your brain's piecing stuff together. I think we've had this conversation, or you and John definitely have had on the podcast. Everything probably has already existed in some form.
sure.
We're
Yeah.
just rehashing it. So I think to some degree, the more you can absorb, so I don't have a great answer, but when I got an action scene, I just had one the other night I was writing. And so I'll try to start writing it, and then in my brain, I'll visualize it as much as I can and piece it together but as I'm writing a lot of times, it's not like I sit there and figure it all out. I'm still figuring it out as I'm writing. And then I'm just trying to tell myself, what details do I need? Do I need the stool they're sitting on? Do I need what's sitting on the bar stool if they're at a bar? Do I need what's sitting on the coffee table? So you want to give enough description so that the person can put themselves in that spot and watch it, not reading it, they're watching it. And how to do that is probably like for you, how do you create music? It's an art form. It's something that you do get better at. Very few people, first thing they put out is like, it's Picasso. They just drew the coolest thing. No, it's something that you got to get better at as you do it,
Hmm.
which to compliment you for someone, and I know it's not, how do I say this without coming the wrong way? You have written so much, but you've not published a lot of
Right.
stuff.
No, you don't have to sugarcoat it, man. Like I have, yeah,
No.
I haven't, yeah, a lot of my writing, no one's ever read.
Right, correct, yeah,
Right.
but you've written so much lyrically, and so there's so much out there that you've had a hand in. But to
Hmm.
actually then take that medium and put it in a short story format, or what you'll do with your graphic novel, there's a skill set to that. A lot of people can do it, not a lot of people can do it really well. And I thought
Right.
yours, like in rereading it last night, because I hadn't looked at it. I've been putting this thing together the last couple months. I hadn't read half the people's stories until a couple months ago. As I was putting it together, I didn't reread yours until last night. I found where I wanted to put it in the story and put it together, but last night I'm like, I need to reread this thing. I haven't read it in a year and a half or whatever it's been. And to compliment you is the descriptiveness that you used. I felt like I was this man walking down this road. You gave enough details that me as the reader could visualize the Irish countryside. I could visualize the hats. I could visualize the garb that the people are wearing. Um, that's how when you can do that, when you can pull the reader in, you just won the biggest part of the
Mm.
battle.
Well, I appreciate that.
Because
Thank
if
you,
they
man.
if you can pull them in, like this with music and with other stuff, if you can pull them in, you're probably going to hold them.
Yeah,
And that's the skill for writing is you got to be able to hold the people.
it's a the it's the songwriting and while songwriting and story writing, while the exact same thing, are couldn't be more different, right?
Right.
I in songwriting you're trying to say more in 6 words than most people can say in 600.
Yeah.
It's all about economy and making an emotion and flashing it. We talk about this when we're writing is, every time I say something, I want to see something.
Hmm.
Every time a line passes, I want a visual to pop.
Yep.
And that's how. And you don't want to you don't want to overdo the metaphor or anything. Like that's a place that a lot of people get in trouble with songwriting and poetry too. To be honest with you, is they don't say the simple things.
Hmm.
That's why Hemingway was so good. Now he was a songwriter, a poet, but he was. I read something the other day he wrote about. Oh, he was writing about tasting an oyster,
Hmm.
and you can probably find this. Just look up Hemingway uh, eating an oyster, Hemingway tasting an oyster, and the way he describes eating an oyster and drinking white wine with it was so simple yet not simple.
Yeah.
And sometimes as songwriters and as poets, we can because I do poetry stuff as well, is we can over metaphor things and try to overly flowery.
Hmm.
Okay. I do salty and sweet. I do this with music and I do this with words. Do I have enough salty? Do I have enough sweet?
Right.
Sweet is the metaphor and the syrup and the chocolate covering, and then, do I have enough hard data? Do I have enough of the salty? You know, those two things have to coexist really, really well together. And when you're lyric writing, so we'll talk about that. When I say something, do I pop a visual?
Yeah.
Do I pop a visual every time that a line goes by, but not? You'll know when it's gone too far into the SERP. It goes too far into the SERPy thing.
Hmm.
Usually it goes too far into the metaphor. Don't try to be so metaphor with everything. But you're trying to pop visuals in people's heads just with a line here, a line there, a word,
Hmm.
or something just makes somebody you're trying to put someone in a you're trying to drop someone into a world, put them in a chair that they've never sat in before with just a few words and a melody and things that are drawing
Hmm.
in. With story writing, with what you do, with what you're great at, it's the opposite. I've got 60,000 words.
Hmm.
So how do I accomplish the same thing with 60,000 words?
Yeah.
I'm telling this whole story now where I would normally be down to a couple of words.
Hmm.
And now I've got unlimited resources.
Yeah.
And so as a songwriter, first, my problem becomes being overly descriptive probably and overly talking.
Hmm.
Because now I've got the ability to say all this stuff that I never have the ability to say.
Sure. Absolutely.
And so
And you can
that's,
take that too far though, because then you can have something that shouldn't be 60,000 words. You really should have capped it at 50
well, that's my point.
because
You're
yeah,
making my point, right? Yeah. Like I'm going to overdo this thing,
overdo it. Yeah.
Uh, it's if I think about that Hemingway thing where he's talking about oysters, I wish I could find it. I might have saved it on my phone somewhere,
I
but
bet Chat GPT or I bet
anyway, yeah, it's
AI's got it somewhere for you.
yeah. Let me see if I could if I see it real quick, I'll it seems like something I would have saved, but maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have saved it at all. But anyway, it's just so you know where I saw it on a menu is where I saw it. I
Oh,
was
you
at a, I
like
was
got
at
to eat or something?
I was at a restaurant and they
Ah,
had oysters and it was written on the menu.
that's funny.
Uh, I had to have taken a picture of it. Maybe I didn't. Okay. Anyway, look it up. But that to me is a great example of having the ability to say as much as you want to say,
Hmm.
but saying it in such a concise way, not too long, not too short, that you make everyone understand what you're saying. Then in a songwriting sense, two songs come to mind. Wildflowers by Tom Petty.
Hmm.
Just says what needs to be said.
Yeah.
There's no, and funny thing about that is he says in a documentary that's the only maybe the only song he ever walked up to a microphone to demo it off the top of his head, sang all the lyrics that are in the song. They just
Wow.
came to him as he went. The other one is uh, "You Are So Beautiful." Was that Joe Cocker? You are so beautiful. Who's that does it? You are so beautiful to
Oh, and yeah, I know exactly
me.
what song you're saying.
Uh,
Can't
uh,
you
okay,
see?
so the only that entire song is "You Are So Beautiful to Me." You're everything I ever hoped for, everything I need. Those are the only lyrics in that entire song. Can't you see is
Can't you
another one.
see is in there. I
Yeah,
remember can't.
that's it. Those are
Yeah.
the lyrics, the whole song. You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You're everything I ever hoped for, everything I need. That's it. That's the only lyrics in that entire
Oh yeah.
song. And nothing else needs to be said. How many people would have taken that and gone, "Oh, now we got to expand on this and we got to get, you know, uh, more in depth with that." And, uh, uh, it's a trap for sure that you can get into.
Hmm.
And I get lost in it all the time. I've got a song right now that I'm working on that I'm just like, just a couple of days ago, I was like, leave it, man. Just leave it. It's perfect the way it is. There
Yeah.
are, yeah, but I've only got one verse. You only need one verse.
Yeah.
If you needed another verse, it'd be there,
Right.
you know? And I think it's going to be a great song when it's done. But it's very concise and short, but it's very difficult especially as someone like me. I'm notorious for taking things too far and then having to come back.
Hmm.
So I'll write too much, or I'll record too much, or I'll film too much, or I'll build too much, and then I gotta nope, 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 nope. Okay, that's perfect. You know.
But that relates directly back to writing, Eric, because as we've been kind of talking about in this podcast for people to kind of get some motivation or kind of stick with something is you're much better off getting to the point where you've put too much out there. You've
Hmm.
you've created too big of a book versus getting halfway through it and being like, I can't do this, or I'm not good at this, or I don't whatever that naysayer in your brain saying to keep you
Hmm.
from doing it. You're better off if you can finish something and knowing you're going to have to cut 30,000 words out of it than being 30,000 words short and never going back and doing it. And as you were saying earlier, you feel a lot of times, especially in the internet age where so many people upload books and Amazon, you can just click and scroll through books all day long and you think, oh my God, I'm competing with so many people. There's 8 billion people out there.
Yeah, man.
And 8 billion people are not buying books or listening to albums or doing
Yeah.
whatever, buying artwork. People are doing it, and there's a lot of people doing it, but you're still, if you've created something and you've got the courage to put it out there, you've done something, especially when you look at, I study history. You look at the course of human history, we live in like the best of times and the worst of times. The best of times is the fact of these evil devices we have in some regards we can do anything with now that if you had told someone even 100 years ago you're going to walk around with a device and you could be walking into a grocery store where we get all our food and decide maybe I'll go to dinner in Paris. You can buy a plane ticket walking into the grocery store and go get on a plane that afternoon and be in Paris that evening.
Yeah, man. Like
It's insane.
how
It's insane.
crazy is that? That's the I was thinking about I was talking to my buddy Alan Price. Alan Price in the Modern Day, great band.
Hmm.
Uh Alan and I go way back. He and I are super good friends, but he was in here helping me helping me film some stuff a couple of days ago because I need help with lighting sometimes, and
Yeah.
it's a lot to do by myself. Um, and we made that point of like, man, how wild is it that you you know, I live in an age where I can, I can work on, uh, uh, a song, an album for 8 months or whatever it is, and then in a blink of an eye, it's uploaded to the rest of the world. Just like that. Like the fact that what an interesting time to be alive.
It
Not
is.
that it's easy. Technology makes everything difficult, but or it
Yeah,
makes a lot of things difficult. But
sure, absolutely.
uh, and here's the other thing too, man, is the world needs you to upload your story
Yes.
because with AI, man, like I think I'm the only person on the planet. I've never once typed an AI prompt. Not
Interesting.
one,
Okay.
not once. I won't do it.
Huh.
I don't like it on Instagram how like if I look at something, it gives me an AI context of
Yeah.
something. Like I don't want it anywhere near me as a creative. I don't want to be influenced by it. I don't want to use it. I don't want it as a tool. Um,
Google does it for everything now. Like if I were
I
to type in Eric Bass into Google, it'll say AI says Eric was born William Frederick
yeah,
Bass Jr. and it'll start giving me this little AI blurb of all the stuff it pulled out from you and as the first prompt. It's
but
wild.
AI, we need real things in the world. This is why, like I said, man, I could have gotten the scenes that I'm doing for my little short film video project in 2 days. I could have had maybe not even that, 2 hours. I could have
Yeah.
had AI make everything I need,
Right.
and just moved on with my life. But again, it's about making the thing. It's about
Yeah.
staring down the beast. It's about getting through
Correct.
the process and
Yep.
doing something I've never done before. I want to learn new trades, new craft,
Hmm.
and so I uh I've never asked AI for a lyric. I've never asked AI for music. I've never asked AI for video. I've never asked AI to make a picture. Like everybody on the bus, everybody has ChatGPT on the bus except me, and they all make
Yep.
funny pictures of all of us in funny scenarios,
Of course.
And I won't even, it's fun, man. I have fun laughing at everybody else's stuff that they make, but it's just, it doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
Like what interests me is finding an artist that whether it be a writer or visual artist, a music artist, a writer that is blowing my mind
Hmm.
and it's coming from a person. It's not coming from technology. That's why the miniatures thing, that's why, I watched a couple of Wes Anderson movies and then I went back and watched, um, you know, some movies from of course, Star Wars and Blade Runner. And
Yeah.
like, I love Lord of the Rings. They call them bigatures. They're
Hmm.
huge miniature things, that they made, and uh, the craft in that, man, and the human element in that. Does it look as good? No, man, it doesn't look as good. It'll never look as good as something I do in Blender or,
Hmm.
you know, and I'll use VFX on top of it. Like I use green screens and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, but making something from scratch is always going to have a it's going to have scars on it. It's going to be
Yeah.
imperfect. The imperfection is is what I'm drawn to.
Right.
There's I've been painting. I want to make sure I remember this person's name. Uh, but her name is Scout Pare Phillips, and
Okay.
she's a musician in New York.
Hmm.
I found her on a guitar site, Cindy's Guitars. And there's another Cindy's Guitars. This girl Cindy, I think it's just Cindy's Guitars, and it's off of Carmine Street Guitars in New York. So, but
Okay.
they make bespoke, handmade guitars from scratch. You know, Cindy, this girl, uh, 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 had she? I found her Scout. That's her name. I don't say this girl, this woman. Uh, she was holding one of these guitars, I guess that she'd had made for her band and but she had a really unique face, and I wanted to paint her so in my style, and so I just pulled a picture off of Instagram and did a painting. Well,
Hmm.
then I was like, I've never listened to this woman's music.
Hmm.
I just did this painting of her. I do some close up faces and stuff,
Hmm.
and so I went and listened to her music. It was nothing AI could have ever come up with.
Hmm.
Like her voice was something different, is
Mhm.
something different. Do I like all of it? Some of it I absolutely love. Some of it it's just like anything. Some of it I'm kind of cold on, but the uniqueness of it
Yeah.
is the thing, you know. And her voice is so unique that AI couldn't have ever done that. And I love that. I love discovering something like that. And what I do, I instantly follow her band and I follow her,
That's awesome.
and like I'm going to listen to anything she puts out and I'm going to embrace anything that she does because it's the opposite of AI. It's got scars on it. She's not using auto tune.
Yeah.
There's no beat detective on the drums. It's the imperfections is what makes it great.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it's bad. When I say imperfections, I'm not saying, oh, there's the bad parts. No, no. Maybe sometimes the bad parts, but the imperfections is what makes
Yeah.
it perfect. And we need more of that. In the world,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so you putting your story out there, meaning the person who's listening to this, or you,
Mhm.
Eric, putting your stories out there, like we need that stuff to be released because AI just looks at itself and makes things,
Yeah.
you know, and it doesn't. It's not that it can't create. Obviously, it can make things, but it only knows what it knows.
Right.
You and I and everyone at home uh, is an antenna for something that is endless and flying past us at all times. This stuff that's in the ether, this thing that we, again, back to the paranormal world, that is just normal. I think that's part of it. Is this other thing that we can tap into, and where those characters come from when you're writing your book that you didn't know were there.
Right.
That came from somewhere. That didn't come from here. That came from somewhere else.
Came
And
from the universe. Yeah.
yeah, and there's a reason why when I'm writing my best lyrics, I'm in a meditative state of sorts where I stare out of a window. Doing it right now. I'm looking out the window, and I have trees out of my window, and I will just look at the green on a tree and just stare at that and just try to not really think, but just sort of like mumble to myself. And
Hmm.
eventually, those lyrics just always happen. They always come. They're always there.
Yeah.
The ones that are right and the ones that are wrong. You know the ones that are wrong, uh, and you know they need to be different. And eventually, the right thing coalesces and comes together. Now, like I can't really make that happen. Occasionally, I'll have a lyric that'll pop in my head when I'm not doing that. Like a lot can happen in a year. Happened between the bathroom and in here. I was walking in and I was
Which
like,
isn't
"Oh,
very
it's
far.
that. Oh, it's that." And I walked in and said, "Brent," I was like, "How about this, dude? This, that, that, can happen in a year." He's like, "That's fucking it, right?" You know, like it's not always the case,
Yeah.
but I was still open. I was still in that mode of writing, and I was that's why it happened, right? I was available. Um, AI can't do that.
Yeah.
AI can't tap into that thing, you know, and so we need people to write their stories and put them out for better or worse, man.
Yeah. I agree.
Whatever it is, we need like it you need the bad paintings with the good paintings. You need the bad songs with the good songs. I know I said earlier I don't finish the bad songs. I do finish a lot of bad songs. I've got a lot of bad songs that no one's ever heard. But the world needs that stuff, man. Like, it's again, if you love it, if you did this thing and you look at it, you listen to it, you read it, you're like, I love this. Then share it with people,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. I'm going to end with two things. First of all, I think I found your quote for you, Hemingway.
Okay, yeah, read this. This is great. This is one of the best. Like,
I hope this is the
so,
right one.
it's so it's about white wine and oysters, right? Is that the one where you're talking about drinking white wine, eating oysters?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, this is so good.
As I ate the oysters with their strong taste of the sea and their faint metallic taste that the cold white wine washed away, leaving only the sea taste and the succulent texture, and as I drank their cold liquid from each shell and washed it down with the crisp taste of the wine, I lost the empty feeling and began to be happy and to make plans.
Dude, it's that last line.
Yeah,
Yeah, I began to be happy and to make
happy and
plans.
make plans. So, and that's a
It's like,
good that's I think a good way to end our conversation. And I want to end on one happy note, and it's just saying thank you to you. I met you in May of 2022. First
okay,
Shinedown show. Thanks really to John Guarnieri inviting me and my son. we're backstage, and I'll be honest, I didn't know you from Adam. I knew who you were, but I had never met you. And you came up and just started talking to Bruce and I like we had known you for a while. And you were very kind. And obviously, with Bruce being interested in music, you guys started talking about that. You've continued on. I'm out of that picture. Even you guys talk without me.
Yeah.
I'm left in the dust with that stuff now, which is awesome. But you made us feel welcomed. And that feeling, from a father's perspective, from a fan perspective, and everything is cool, is powerful. And I think when you can leave that impression on people, man, that's the way to live life.
Mm.
Make people have that memory and you can't, obviously, people have bad days and you might run into them with bad days, but I've had this happen with a couple authors that I've met them and they always say, don't meet your heroes. I've had the opposite experience. Most of the time I've met people, I met Jacoby backstage and hung out with him in the dressing room for a little bit during one of the shows. And he was super sweet. And I've
Yeah,
had these
he's a great guy, man.
experiences. Yeah, I know you guys are great friends. And I've had
Yeah.
these experiences really thanks to you guys now. Jelly Roll. I
Hmm.
talked to him for all of 10 seconds, but he's calling me Mr. Bishop. And I'm like, whoa, that's my
Yep.
dad. I'm not Mr. Bishop. But he was that memory though, they stick with you. So when you have
Yeah.
those memories and those people give you those first impressions, um, they stick with you and they're powerful. And be that way. Be that
Mm.
way with people because you don't
Yeah.
know. You might be meeting someone on their worst day, and
Yeah.
the positive thing you say flips that script for them.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. That's very nice. And likewise, man, you've always been super kind to me and you're right. I do have bad days. I've had a couple of bad moments. One in particular, I'll tell a quick story. We were pulling into the O2 Arena in the UK. This was in 2019. It's it's been forever ago. It's before COVID, I think.
Wow.
Right before COVID. It was in that winter time. It was the last show of a tour, long. Anybody who's ever toured in Europe in the winter time knows you never see the sun. You wake up after the sun's gone down. It's cold. It's a difficult tour. It always is. It's never easy. It was a lot more fun when we used to party, which we don't really do anymore. Um, I don't. Yeah, I have a beer every 3 months, I think, on the boat now. Um, but I teed off on this security guard. He asked to see my pass or something, and I teed off on him. I'd had it. I was over it.
Mhm.
And and this has happened on more than one occasion with me, with people, where I'll snap. And I made it a point, man, it's probably 45 minutes later. It was just nagging me. I was like, I got to go back and talk to that guy, man.
Mhm.
And so I went back down there and I introduced myself and I said, man, I'm so sorry for speaking to you the way I spoke to you. You were just doing your job. I'm Eric. I'm in the band Shinedown. Thank you for being here today. And, appreciate you guys. Like, so even, and I've had that happen in my personal life too, like not in work, like where you know, I just always want to make people feel good, man. There's something about that in
Yeah.
me that's this there. So I appreciate the compliment
Um,
and but it's true, man. People will always they remember the way you make them feel, and maybe I forget who coined that phrase, but they said they won't remember what you said, but they'll always remember the way you made them feel. And so, man, I'm very blessed to do what I do. I've gotten a little bit more curmudgeonly as I got older. As I've gotten older, I know that's hard to believe. Where it's a little harder for me to go out and sign after the show, outside in the cold and stuff, but I'll still do it, and I love the fact that the fans are there waiting, man, and uh, uh, it's actually more important for me to do it when I don't want to do it, if
yeah.
that makes sense,
Yeah, I think it
and
is.
so, because here's the thing, I never regret doing it.
Hmm.
I never once go, man, I wish I hadn't gone out and done that.
Yep.
But I will the couple of nights where like I've had a bad show or I'm not feeling like it because I had social anxiety, man. I'm not the best. I'm not the best with groups of people.
Hmm.
Um, as much as I talk on here, I'm not very talkative, to believe it or not.
You're
I'm a
just talking
wall.
to a screen.
I'm a wallflower for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I don't talk very much in groups, um, but the couple of when I do have a moment or a day where I don't feel like doing it, I always leave there feeling like I didn't give my all and I
Hmm.
didn't do my thing. So I try to never forget how. blessed I am. And this, I know we're trying to round this out, but that goes into, I'll carry it back around to our, what we're talking about the pushing the boulder up the hill.
Yeah.
Uh, like be thankful for that boulder and be thankful for the struggle.
Hmm.
Be glad the struggle it's an honor. It's a gift. And I forget that a lot. And I have to remind myself, hey man, the fact that you're struggling with this thing is you should be honored that you're able to struggle with it, that you have a career or a hobby where you're so passionate about it that you feel the way you feel right now. And what an honor that is. It's easy to talk about right now. It's a lot more difficult in the moment,
Yeah.
but but in retrospect, it's always something that I go back to is man, I'm I'm so glad that I suffered through that.
Hmm.
I'm so glad that here I'll end it with this. When we were making Planet Zero, I was probably the most depressed I can imagine ever being. Like
Hmm.
during the making of that record, I really, really, really was. I was worried about myself pretty big time.
Hmm.
And it came time to mix that record, and I didn't have it in me, man. And I went down to the dock outside with Brent, and I just cried, man. Like people, some people say, you cried over a record, you cried over mixing. It means that much, right? It means the weight is heavy, and it matters, and at least to me it does. And I want it to be great. And if I don't feel like I can deliver it, it was kind of this moment of like, I can't do this. I can't push myself through this. We need to find somebody else to do it. And then I remember the next day waking up and I'd purged something, in that
Hmm.
moment. And that's one great thing about our band is we don't mind being emotional with each other, man. Like no one hides anything from anybody else. And we've all seen each other cry. We've all seen each other angry. We've all seen each other laugh. But I purged something in that hour that I was down there, you know, and I got up the next morning and I was like, I can do this.
Hmm.
And I just started the journey into the mixing process, and it ended up okay. Is it my favorite thing I ever did? No, but I got through it. And um, so just remember that like those moments of doubt and not feeling like you can persevere are the honor. That's the reward in
Hmm.
a very ironic sense.
Well, those
So
struggles are either going to define you or they're going to refine you. And
mm,
you get to make that choice. You get to, and I know some things happen that can't be overcome. I get that. But so many things in our life that um, we make that are a big deal, we make into a bigger deal.
mm,
And if you can just get over that hump, you'll realize hopefully what you've accomplished. And then I think you're better prepared for when the next one comes because you're
yep.
like, hey, I faced that down. It's like finishing a story. When you finish a story and whether it gets published or not, whether your mom's the one that reads it and says, good job, and it's really not a good job, you've still accomplished something that you can look back at and you yourself, whether someone leaves you a negative review, whether anyone really, really likes what you wrote, you can like what you wrote. You
Hmm.
can be proud of the fact that you completed something. And what I always tell myself and what I tell my kids and tell other people is if you did it once, you can do it again. And if you
Yep.
did it once, you can get better at it. And you can be the one to make it, but you can't make it if you don't stick to it and finish it.
Yeah. And every once in a while, if you do that, if you walk into that room enough times, that dark room with those monsters enough times, the world will give you a wildflower. So the world will give you you'll find a $10 bill in your pocket out of the wash, where every once in a while you'll get rewarded with a gift, like Brent has said in the past, and I've adopted this, that, you write 100 songs, you hope you write 10 good ones and one great one.
Hmm.
And that one great one is usually the wildflower. It's usually the one that's just floating around out there and it's meant for you and it's given to you real quick. Here you go. Here's a gift. You've worked really, really hard. Here's a day off, and you write something in 10 minutes. I mean, that's like 365 we wrote in that whole song was written in 2.5 hours and
Hmm.
2 hours, maybe not even. Um, so yeah, every once in a while you get given a gift, and so there is reward to this. It's not always it's not always crying in the minivan in the driveway, you know. Like so sometimes they somebody pulls up in a Ferrari and lets you drive it. So
Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you for letting me be a little part of your journey and
yeah,
get to witness it. And
thank you, man. I appreciate everything. And
we'll
by
see
the
what
way,
happens.
I know we're signing off, but yeah, compliment for you, man. I want everyone to know who you are real quick. Like Eric will reach out to me every once in a while with a Bible verse or with a thought when he knows I'm in the middle of something, man. And he doesn't have to do that. And I really, really, really appreciate that, man. So thank you for that.
Well, you're a special human. We're all special humans, but for whatever reason, our paths have crossed, and not just because we have
Yep.
the same name. And yeah, every now and then I'll just get that nudging of reach out to Eric. I know most of the time I probably won't hear back. Kelly told me that long time ago. Like he'll even ignore Brent. He only responds to me most of the time. So but yeah, sometimes I try.
I'm a bad texter, but
That,
yeah,
that's okay. Thank you, my
I
friend.
appreciate you, man. Thank you.
I appreciate you.